Hello everyone, today we have a jam-packed video full of locomotives. Today we will be covering Albert, Jim, Tim, Alfred and Atlas. So let's begin. I've grouped these three together as there are very few differences between them, especially Jim and Albert, so then let's get to the details. Tim has a coal bunker in front of the cab, blocks which I assume are meant to be buffers, a P-shaped cab and a dome and some other thing in the coal bunker. We also know he is an 060. Jim and Albert have two bunkers in front of their cabs, sandboxes are 060s and Jim has a T-shaped cab while Albert has a P-shaped cab. We'll start each comparison with Tim and then do Jim and Albert. The
Corporate Move 030T,
built in 1925, is somewhat close to Tim. It has the dome and another thing, a P-shaped cab, and it's an 060. However, the smoke box is wrong and there is a lack of a coal bunker at the front of the cab. For Jim and Albert, it is almost an exact match. However, Jim and Albert have one dome near their cab, the basis lacks the two bunkers, the smoke box is the wrong shape and it lacks sandboxes. And for Jim, the cab shape is inaccurate. The
Indre-Loire type 030 type 3AC,
built in 1883, is again somewhat similar to Tim, though it has sandboxes, a lack of coal bunker in front of the cab and doesn't have the other dome looking thing. It more closely matches Albert and Jim. However, the dome is too far up. It lacks the mounted bunkers and the cab shape for Jim is inaccurate. The type EWG, built by Bagnall and built in 1905, is somewhat close to Tim. It lacks the other dome looking thing though. The cab shape is inaccurate and it lacks the bunker in front of the cab. For Jim and Albert, it is close, though again the dome is too far up, lacks the bunkers, lacks sandboxes, and for Albert, the cab shape is inaccurate. Now to a personal favourite locomotive of mine, the Clogger Valley Railway 042T tram engine, built in 1886. Now this is what most people think Tim is, and I can see why. It has the bunker in front of the cab, the correct smoke box shape, the other dome looking thing and the correct cab shape. However, it is an 042 locomotive where Tim is an 060, and it has what looks like sandboxes, lacks the dome, and most notably the side tanks are extended. As for Jim and Albert, the wrong wheel arrangement, as Jim and Albert are 060s not 042s, while there is a coal bunker in front of the cab, it also goes over the boiler, which isn't accurate to Jim and Albert, who have two separate ones. It lacks the dome, and for Jim it is the cab and for Jim the cab shape is inaccurate. Lastly, it's a Welsh Pool and Nanfair Light Railway, number 1 the Earl and number 2 Countess. I probably mixed that up, so I am very sorry. And they are 060s built in 1902. For Tim, they are very inaccurate. The smoke box shape is wrong, there isn't the other dome looking thing, it lacks the coal bunker in front of the cab, and the cab is the wrong shape. As for Jim and Albert, it is much closer, though the smoke box shape is, again, wrong. The dome is farther up, it lacks side tank mounted coal bunkers, lacks sandboxes, and, at least for Albert, the cab shape is inaccurate. Now I should note, all of these locomotives aren't actually the same gauge as the mid-Sodor. However, it was already difficult enough to find 060 narrow gauge tank engines with side tanks, and it isn't out of the possibility they could have been re-gauged. So then, to the picks. For Tim, it is obviously the Clogger Valley Railway 042T tram engine. It is not perfect by any means, but it is close enough to almost be considered the spitting image of Tim, and it wouldn't be surprising if that was the engine Audrey had in mind when making Tim. For Jim, the
Indre-Loire type 030 type 3AC
has taken my liking, and especially at the front, the engine looks a lot like Jim. And for Albert, again it is either the
Indre-Loire type 03, 0 type 3AC.
or the
Corporate Roubaix 030T.
So then, let's get to Alfred. Now, Alfred is an interesting case, as he has a saddle tank over his boiler, which is apparently a rare thing for engines in the 1800s, though we are working with 1920 or before at the latest, as he was the number 4 before Stuart, and there could have been number 4s before him. The details are that he's an 040 with a saddle tank over his smoke box. He seems to have 2 domes, a large cab with 3 windows on the side, and a bell. So then let's get to the possible engines. Now, I could only find 2 locomotives that matched up with the details well. There were others, but they had details such as small domes, which didn't really fit Alfred.
Lockheed Christie Clay Products.
040 ST, built in 1907, is already an engine which is basically an exact match. The only real difference needed is for the rear dome to be a bit taller, and there are 2 cab windows instead of 3. I am going to say that
Lockheed Christie Clay Products.
040 ST, I do find its build date to be a bit late, but it is the closest I could find that had a build date. Now, Atlas is an oddball. He is Alfred's brother, but he shares strange details, such as coal bunkers in front of the cab and being an 060. He lacks a bell. I've only been able to find one, and I have no idea what the locomotive's class even is. All I know is that it was built in China in 1921, and its number is 54920, though all of this information comes from a Facebook group. Anyway, as you can see, it kind of looks like Atlas. It has the 3 cab windows, it's an 060, well, it lacks the coal bunkers in front of the cab, has 3 domes instead of 2, and has a bell. There are also the engines I proposed for Alfred, but the only notable differences are the lack of bell, the fact it is an 060, and has coal bunkers. So, which Alfred's bases don't. So the choice, either the 54920 or the
Lockheed Christie Clay Products.
040 ST. How many times will I cover the red engine? Hopefully this is the last, and it probably will be. Now, I did collect together a myriad of different foreign 462 locomotives, but I eventually just landed on him being in the Raven A2. The main thing about the Middleton illustrations is that the wheel configurations were carried over into all future illustrations, so I've decided the Raven A2 just suffices. Team Jim and Albert, I'm fairly happy with. Alfred and Atlas, not so much. So please suggest your locomotives in the comments section below. Reading the comments is actually one of my favourite things to do on YouTube, so please do leave down your suggestions. But I do have something to say about that in a moment, but before we do, I'd like to mention an anonymous Thomas Fans video on what basis Tim, Jim and Albert were. He considered some of the same engines I considered, so I'd suggest checking out his video. His channel and video will be linked in the description and pinned comment. Now, there is something I need to mention. In my last basis video, I talked about you guys helping me find locomotive bases, and I am flabbergasted at just how many I have been suggested, and I do appreciate it. However, one of the reasons I asked was because not only did I want to find a basis for these locomotives, but I had considered putting your suggestions into a video, which brings me to this point. Please keep all of your suggestions for bases on the basis videos. If you have no idea what I mean by basis videos, these are the videos I'm referring to, including the one you're currently watching. Any video of mine that has me trying to crack the basis of a locomotive is considered a basis video on my channel. So please leave your suggestions on those videos only, as it will wind up being very difficult to try and find bases when it is scattered across all of my channel. And so from now on, any bases posted anywhere else on my channel but my basis videos shall go ignored. Which brings me to another point. I have seen some people spamming bases into my comments section. Well, again, I do appreciate it. It is good for video engagement. It is also, I find it quite overwhelming, especially since I can get it for multiple days in a row. So trying to put it into one long comment will not only help with organising the bases, but for me at least relieve some of the pressure and at times annoyance of my notifications being bombarded with bases. Again, I do appreciate bases being sent in, just not when I'm getting a bunch of bases sent within an hour. I do like to try and see every comment before I forget them. So yeah. And lastly, I will not, and I want to make this so clear because I have had this so many times, and it is getting annoying to repeat this over and over, and I've said this to someone multiple times and they just don't listen, so please, I am not going to repeat this. I will not be accepting any made up locomotives. For example, fictional bases, AI generated bases, and made up locomotives, this technically comes under fiction, will not be accepted. I am only, and I do mean only, I will only be accepting locomotives that actually existed historically. I have seen someone keep sending in bases from Scorch Sane, who is actually very good. Go check him out, I'll have him linked in the description, pinned comment as well. But his locomotives never actually existed historically. I am also not changing details about the locomotives, whether that be the time they were built or actual physical features, and pretty much any other details about them. The only physical features, and this will be the only features I will be changing, are the running board, and only if they are stepped running boards, and even then I am only changing them to sloped running boards. I want to make that very, very clear, because this is starting to be, because the amount of bases I have been getting sent in with featuring fictional locomotives or locomotives that just seem impossible to find online is absolutely ridiculous. So hopefully that clears things up. Thank you all for watching this video, and goodbye.